Claude de France, or the woman you've never heard at all of. Am I right? When we talk about 16th century France, when we talk about the Tudor period, when we talk about, Anne Boleyn, sometimes the name of Claude de France obviously is going to come up. But she's always associated with being weak, like not very interesting, not much to say about her, mostly because she died young. She died because she gave birth 7 times. And when someone tells me that this woman is weak, I want to punch them in the face and say, weak? Do you realize what we're talking about? Pregnant 7 times. The woman is not weak. The woman is a warrior. But who was she? Obviously, we want to know more about her. She was the ruling Duchess of Brittany from 1514, at the death of her mother, Anne of Brittany, until her death in 1524. And she was Queen of France by marriage to King Francis I. More importantly, Claude of France is the daughter of a king, Louis XII of France, and his second wife, as I said, the Duchess of Brittany. But what's so interesting is that, in France, there was a Salic law that prevented women to get the throne, to ascend the throne. So it was not possible for Claude to become queen herself in her own right. And sometimes I do wonder what kind of queen she would have been, and if she would have still married Francis I. Because she would kind of forced to marry him. It was definitely a dynastic alliance. It was definitely a dynastic marriage, a dynastic union. It was for political reasons. They were both young, so that would work, but she was much younger. And I wonder how she must have felt, because she was the daughter of a king and he wasn't. And just because of his lineage, he was the cousin, so he was the heir apparent, and Louis XII didn't have any male heir. And somehow she had to give up. I want you to understand, in other countries, women would step up and become queen, like we have it in England, we have it in Spain, we have it in other, Isabel of Castile, we have it in other countries, but not in France. And I really wonder how she must have felt. And because when you become queen of France, queen consort, not queen in your own right, then you have mostly one duty: bearing children, making sure to secure the line. And she did that. She definitely did that. But at what cost? Let's try to know more about Claude of France. Claude of France was named after Claudius of Besançon, a saint her mother had invoked during her pilgrimage so she could give birth to a living child. During her 2 marriages, Queen Anne of Brittany had been struggling. She had at least 14 pregnancies, and only 2 children survived, Claude and Renee. I want you also to imagine that, because I feel like, some people are like, we only talk about that as a failure, a political failure, a dynastic failure. We never talk about the toll it must take on a woman psyche, on a woman physical body, and the fact that there were people who rejoiced at Anne's Brittany and ability to have living children, but also not to have a son. And I'm even talking here about Louise of Savoy, the mother of King Francis I, because she knew that each time that Anne of Brittany was failing, it meant there was a chance for her son to become king. So I don't think she was rejoicing on a personal level, though there was a great rivalry between them too, so I hope she wasn't. But I can't really talk, for her. But here, I want you to understand how hard it must have been, and how much love there was in these daughters. Anne of Brittany really loved Claude and Renee. What was so interesting is that, as I said, Anne of Brittany was Duchess of Brittany. She was the ruling Duchess of Brittany. The heir was her daughter. And the fact there was this alliance as well between Claude of France and Francis I, it meant that Brittany, the Duchy of Brittany, was finally kind of absorbed by France. And that's why it was also such a very important political alliance. Claude, however, still remained the ruling Duchess of Brittany. Even if it meant that her power was kind of diminished, there was still the title. There's almost this myth as well around Claude of France that when she became Queen of France, like because she was always pregnant, just weak, all of that, kind of, she was almost just tapestry, right? And so there's this idea that she was completely overshadowed by Louise of Savoy, the mother of King Francis I, and obviously by Margaret of Angoulême, who was King Francis I's sister. But I think here it's more complex than that. I think here we're just kind of misunderstanding the whole thing. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, because Louise of Savoy knew how important it was to secure the line. So I think she would have had lots of respect for Claude. And I don't think she would have tried to upset her. There's no records really of that. Also, we know that the three ladies went together on the royal progress to Provence to welcome back Francis I when he won the big battle of Marignano. It was the Italian wars in October 1515, and we know that Anne Boleyn was with them. She was in the service, at the service of Queen Claude. So here I think as well that when you look at the evidence we have, I don't see how Queen Claude is overshadowed by her mother-in-law, because when you look at that progress, she is a very important character in the progress, and Louise of Savoy is at the same level as her, if not a bit under. Like, you know, the pageants and everything in every city we stop, there was lots of things to acclaim and to show glory and admiration to Queen Claude, as well as to Louise of Savoy, but more to Queen Claude. And again, that is because Queen Claude was daughter of a king and the ruling Duchess of Brittany. Two things that Louise of Savoy wasn't. Another thing that is so interesting about Queen Claude is that obviously she met Henry VIII. She was there at the field of cloth of gold. And here we know that, again, Anne Boleyn was by her side. So it is so very interesting that for such a figure, we tend just to forget about her, to forget her importance. She secured the dynasty. She secured the Valois-Angoulême dynasty. She was a very good wife to Francis I. And obviously we talk a lot about how Francis I was unfaithful and da-da-da. Yes, but like any other king. And he didn't order the execution of his wife. Bear in mind that she gave lots of children, but still, like, you know, I don't think it's something he would have ever contemplated to do. Claude was crowned Queen of France on the 10th May 1517. And again, it is important because she's a crowned queen. Anne Boleyn is going to be crowned as well. She's going to be a crowned queen. And there is something very much powerful about this. But what I want you also to remember is that when Queen Claude was crowned, someone witnessed it, and it was Anne Boleyn. So Anne Boleyn has really saw the glory of coronations before returning to England herself. But how Claude of France was really remembered? Well, we have a very interesting piece of work by Brantôme, who was a chronicler at the time, and he said, "I must speak about Madame Claude of France, who was very good and very charitable and very sweet to everyone, and never showed displeasure to anybody in her court or other domains. She was deeply loved by the King Louis and the Queen Anne, her father and mother, and she was always a good daughter to them. After the king took the peaceful Duke of Milan, he made him declare and proclaim her in the Parliament of Paris the Duchess of the two most beautiful duchies of Christendom, Milan and Brittany, one from the father and from the mother. What an heiress, if you please. Both duchies join in all good deed to our beautiful kingdom." So that was the first part of the Italian wars. Louis XII is going to get the Duchy of Milan and he gives it to his daughter. Again, I want you to see the importance that Claude had. The fact that she was so beloved by her parents. The fact that she had so much titles meant she had so much wealth. She had influence, she had power. But the truth is, there's something that really struck me when I was reading about Queen Claude. Everyone said she was very good. Everyone said she had a very good temperament. It made me realize we don't really remember women who are good. We don't really remember women who have good temperaments. We always Remember, women who are on the edge, who have sometimes a bad temper, who are a bit feisty and fiery, and with lots of criticism and with lots of hatred. But then the ones who are just good, we just tend to forget about them. And I hope that this video is finally doing justice to Queen Claude, because she was a good person. She helped Francis I ruling, and she was, even if she was pregnant and stuff, she was a very important political figure during her husband's reign. I really hope you enjoyed that video, and if you have any questions about her, leave them in the comments and I'll reply to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!